Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Revenue Cloud Roundtable. My name is John Garvins. I'm the owner and principal architect of Garvins Consulting. I specialize in Salesforce, Revenue Cloud, and Revenue Cloud adjacent products, including CPQ, um, billing, and the like. So I've been in the space for a while now, and on today's agenda, we have a few key topics that we're going to discuss. First, the Spring 25 release of Revenue Cloud. Then we'll get into migrations from Salesforce CPQ to Revenue Cloud Advanced and other products. We'll get into the Advanced Configurator, which is a recent announcement, and some of us on the call have done a training on it recently. And finally, we'll get into Revenue Cloud Billing and billing in general and discuss how we need to think about these quoting tools and how they need to tie into the back office. Without further ado, I give a quick intro. John Garvins, Garvins Consulting. I'm a Revenue Cloud architect, and we'll work our way around. Jean-Michel, let's go to you next.
All right, thanks, John. So I'm Jean-Michel Tremblay, JM for short, and I'm a managing principal at Elysian, a Salesforce partner based out of Chicago. And I also run the Cloud Update, a website and YouTube channel where I talk about Revenue Cloud related stuff. So if you're into that kind of thing, and I expect you are if you're here already, so go follow.
Yes, and Jean-Michel has lots of great content about Revenue Cloud. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. I'll include links to all of our various websites, LinkedIn profiles, etc., so that you can follow along, meet us on the interwebs, and get connected. Ravi.
Yeah, thanks, John. Nice intro, Jim. Nice to meet you all. I've been implementing code to cash in Oracle applications and Salesforce CPQ for the last 8 years. Now getting up to date on Revenue Cloud, an entire life cycle, code to cash and taxation, revenue recognition, and ERP integration. So I bring that knowledge and seen my share of all the implementations, and just now trying to get my feet wet in the Revenue Cloud and see where it takes and what are the alternatives, and just like everybody else, figuring it out, where should I put my money and the time and effort. So looking forward to the discussion and take part, and as we go more in the next few months, probably get up to speed.
Yeah.
Thank
Fun
you.
fact, Ravi and I worked together on a very big project for a very big client many years ago that turned into a chaotic mess. Big surprise. Not because of
Always.
us, though. It was the broader scenario was unwinnable. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Jason.
Hey everybody, Jason Anderson. I'm the senior principal advisor at Spherelight Consulting. I've been implementing various billing platforms for the past 15 years, numerous competitors to Salesforce plus Salesforce and Salesforce Billing, the original product. Now I'm more into strategic advisory for quote to cash transformations and larger projects, as billing is kind of the center of the wheel and touches basically everything in the quote to cash ecosystem. So pleasure to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. Most of us in our group, where all of us are bantering on a daily basis, are more on the CPQ side, and it's good to have some billing folks. We even got a Commerce Cloud guy in there who lives in the country of Georgia. He chimes in every now and then. And Travis.
Hey everybody, John, thanks for including me here. I am Travis Lee, Senior Director of Revenue Systems and Process at AvidXchange. I specialize in CPQ and DocuSign document generation. I've worked on quite a few quote to cash, order to cash projects over the years using a number of different tools, including Zora. Haven't had a chance to use Salesforce billing yet, so I'm very interested to hear Jason's thoughts on that front. But I am one of those guys that primarily focuses on the quoting side of things. So very excited to learn more about Revenue Cloud and how that migration will look in the future.
Fantastic. I realized just now that I completely misspoke. We talked about the Spring 25 release earlier. It's the summer release that we're on now, which shows how attuned to this industry I actually am. Shh, don't tell anybody that I have no clue what the hell I'm talking about. I did pull up your blog post, Jean-Michel, so we could quickly go through it. I know you've done a good job of summarizing the changes, and hell, why not promote your website while we're at it? So let's go over here and talk through some of these changes and what we're seeing, and discuss what we need to be looking for in the future.
Yeah.
We got all of our subscribe stuff. We'll do that later. We'll get rid of this. Although I will say again, subscribe to Jean-Michel's stuff. He's got a lot of knowledge in this area, And I encourage you to follow all of the folks on this call. They know what they're doing. The product catalog management. Let's dive in.
The first one is actually small but interesting. So the current way that you add products on a quote in Revenue Cloud, you click on Browse Catalogs, then you're on a catalog selection screen, which you have to select the catalog, hit next, and then get to products. It is, in my opinion, too many clicks to get to adding a product
Cumbersome.
on a quote. Yes. So adding more, it's a simple add, but I feel like it's an effective one. Because in reality, you're probably going to be mostly quoting out of one catalog if you're a sales rep at a company. So
I agree.
I think that's a small one, but very interesting.
Yeah, it also adds complexity to when you have the user, okay, pick your price book and then browse your catalog, and they're going, what the hell is the difference between all these different things?
Yeah.
Simplification of this stuff is really good. And generally, when you're implementing these things, having defaults is a very powerful yet often overlooked piece of the puzzle. What can we do for the user so they don't have to do it themselves is a question that I'll often ask myself. Also, it looks like Micah might be joining us. It's connecting to audio. We'll see how long it takes for him to get in here, and then he can do a quick little intro. Guided selling enhancements. What did you see there that was particularly interesting?
Right now, if guided selling is on, it's on, and it's always showing up. Now you can simply hide it if you want on specific product lists and product catalogs. So I think that's also going to be another small but helpful add to the just browse catalog experience for your users.
Quick timeout. Micah has joined the call. Micah, welcome. And do you want to do a quick intro and let everybody know who you are?
Sure, absolutely. Hey, sorry to crash the party late. Micah Gerger, I'm the CTO of Blue Robot Digital. We're a Revenue Cloud and Revenue Lifecycle Management consulting partner.
Awesome. And Micah's got a ton of experience along with everybody else in this space. So I'll share his contact information as well. Enhanced attribute support. So this will probably be interesting in the sense that we have the advanced configurator now. I imagine that this update is no longer relevant, has lost relevance, has decreased. What do you think here?
I mean, I don't know if anyone was aware of the limit. I guess I didn't hit it so far in any of my projects, but it would have been a fairly terrible one to hit that limit of 15. So now that it goes up to 200, I guess I was, as I pointed out in the blog post, I did not know that there was a limit, but being able to go up to 200 is very relevant. I'd say even more than now that you're going to get the advanced configurator, which is going to build on top of those attributes.
Yeah, this is going to be really big for manufacturers because they tend to have lots of attribute-based configuration as well. Any other opinions on enhanced attribute support?
I mean, one of the beauties of RCA is that the model with attributes where you don't have to actually configure fields across all of your objects to be able to pass those attributes from, say, quote line all the way through to assets. So the ability to support a lot more, yeah, that's great for manufacturers and really attribute heavy customers, but it's also allows you to represent key details about your transaction lines without having to go into your context definitions and map everything out. So it's really handy config tool that's a little bit different from CPQ as well.
Yeah, it's the feature in CPQ. For those of you who are more familiar with CPQ, we had the twin field function that allows you to pass data from object to object. We do have that similar type of capability in Revenue Cloud. It's done differently, but in principle, we need to pass data from upstream to downstream, and that's what's going to help with that. Quote visibility is back. What do you mean is back?
Well, it was in CPQ, but it wasn't in Revenue Cloud, not so far anyway, right? So the option to have at the product option level, whether you want it to show in the transaction line editor on the output documents, that's back. So it's back.
Okay.
I think it's in line too with I think we need charts of everything that's back from CPQ to Revenue Cloud.
The official line from Salesforce has been that we're at and beyond parity with the new product and everything is great, although a lot of the details like this have not necessarily made their way into the new one yet. And
we have some, you talked about twin fields, we have that for a lot of the relationship, but not back to opportunity product, which is also will be required.
Frustrating.
Yeah, it's
because
required for a lot of projects.
yeah, and I think one of the biggest reasons is required. I have a YouTube video on this on my channel, cleverly titled Garvin's Consulting, where I show how to use twin fields to take your ACV calculations and your MRR calculations from your quote lines and bring them over to the opportunity products. Because believe it or not, customers don't want to buy endless licenses for every user in Salesforce, and some people just need to know the summary. Auto
Is the
renewal. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, just a quick question related to the child products. Is it in that display? Is it clearer? I've had some sales reps, question me in the past that the indentation within the quote line editor of CPQ doesn't clearly articulate that that it is a child of that parent. Is that visual simpler or clearer in RCA from what you've seen?
Well, it is because your bundle is always closed down, or
Collapsed.
there's a better word, collapsed. Yes.
Yeah.
It's always collapsed in Revenue Cloud unless you actually choose to go and click on the arrow. So it's obvious, maybe to a fault, I guess, right now, because I think a lot of people are going to request an option to auto expand bundles.
Yep.
Yeah, that's current state.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Also, try to make this a little bit better. I'm going to try to get all of us here on the screen so you can see us. And then instead, I'm just going to put the link to his article in the chat so we can all look at the same thing. I think that's probably a better way. As beautiful as your website is, Jean-Michel, people would probably rather look at human faces talking. Or in the case of Travis, eating lunch.
We look much better.
That quote line visibility thing, I think, fits in similar bucket as like the uplift, renewal uplift. I had to like custom build automated renewal uplift for a demo last week, and then it was great to see something like that in the summer 25 release notes. I think there's a whole bunch of little things that I think veteran CPQ, quote to cash, product to cash, pick your buzzword, people have been working on, where it's like RCA as an overall architecture and vision is great, but there's some really obvious ones that every implementation really is going to need that we're missing. It feels like Summer 25 hits a lot of those that have been kind of lingering.
Another one of those that came up today in conversation in Slack was the ghost quote on some sort of an amendment. I make an amendment that creates my opportunity. I want to true up that renewal opportunity with the ghost quote to have my opportunity products update. That's not currently out of the box. I hope
it is in Summer 25.
It is in Summer 25. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It shows how much I read the release notes. All of my questions here. Salesforce pricing, including assets for tiers and volumes. We've got discount distribution services, pricing procedures, simulations. Is there anything here that we want to call out as particularly important?
Well, I think current install base assets for volume tiered pricing is something that I hear on a lot of projects, right? You want to calculate their volume discount based on current plus, cross orders. That's coming out. So I think that's going to be an helpful one. Discount distribution service, it's a small one. It was already in there. So discount distribution service, for context, is target customer amount in CPQ. They actually did improve that a lot, right? Because target customer amount is one of those features where it looks nice, it demos nice, but then in real life, it doesn't implement nice because customers want to limit this, limit that, do this. Now, discount distribution service actually does answer a lot of those problems that we had with target customer amount, because you can set products to non-discountable. You can set discount limits on products and capture whatever remainder discount cannot be applied.
And you can do this on a line item level or a bundle parent product level.
So you create a table of products that are non-discountable, and then for minimum price on specific products, you would have to set that in a quote line field, for example. So you would set on your quote line field, here's the minimum discount for that product, the minimum price for that product, and the engine will respect that.
Yep, and that's usually the bridge that you see with the billing projects between your revenue operations, your salespeople, right? And then the actual revenue recognition processes themselves being able to capture that value plus the discount value per line item. So that goes back up to that top, John, of the, being able to pass more fields, right? Because as billing comes into play, there's this need for not just moving the fields from one table or object to another, but the auditability of that, right? Being able to trace that value all the way back from the opportunity, because really there are customers that will, and I'm sure you've seen this too, Jim, like some will go off quotes, but many go back to the opportunities themselves to really get an average customer, an ACV, or a contract value, or a customer value, right? And again, depending on their customer hierarchy. So that's good to hear that it's getting down to that level, the discounts.
Pricing procedure
Even might be
simulation.
helpful for, sorry, John, even for like SSP calculation, right? If we go one step further in revenue recognition, because you typically have an SSP calculation when you get to revenue, a low end that you want to respect for, and you can reallocate. But if you wanted to enforce that at the quote, at quoting and say never go below that because that's our minimum SSP and we don't want to reallocate to something else, then that's a good way to enforce those kinds of rules.
Yep, excellent call out.
Pricing procedure simulation. This would have been really nice to have in, say, CPQ in the old one, instead of just like running stuff and seeing like, okay, that's wrong. How do I figure this out? Where does it go wrong? All of that.
And it exists already. The issue is that you have to manually input every variable that goes into your pricing procedure to actually test it. Now you're going to be able to say test with this quote line.
It's a big time
see the actual output.
Yeah, it's a big time saver, and hopefully it's the beginning of what becomes a theme with RCA around administrative ability. There's a lot to maintain. There's a lot to configure, even for things that were maybe simpler to build out quickly with CPQ. But just as an administrator, the rigor that organizations are going to have is pretty serious to release changes without breaking things, to simulate those changes. And so just having a little bit friendlier ability to go test out a change without having to go grab a bunch of IDs, put them in a notepad and drop them in and simulate through JSON, I think will be huge. And it'll allow more admins to be able to get in there and quickly test things out without needing quite as high of a technical skill set maybe to do, or at least the learning curve.
Yeah, I think it falls under this price optimization typically needs, because that's always used to be after the fact of it, when later. Right now, this is a comparison kind of where you can have simulate it and see and make a decision on that one. I think that's a good one there.
Probably want to skip down across advanced configurator, right?
Yeah. The product configurator. We'll circle back and put a pin in that. Circle back, put it in the parking lot. Double click on it.
Double click back into advanced configurator.
Yeah, for those not in on the joke, which is everybody who's not on this call, not in our Slack channel, it's the whole conversation we've had this week, just almost memifying, if I can make a word right now on the fly, the endless conversations and the one-liners that are used in the consulting world. Anyway, transaction management.
Your favorite subject.
Oh yeah.
Up first.
Yes, best subject ever. Transaction management, Agentforce quoting. How did you know it was my favorite subject ever?
No, you're a big fan of Agentforce.
I'm a big fan of AI in general. I complain about it on my typewriter at home.
It's I've built this one custom a while back, did a video on it a while back. Now it's official, and it's the official Salesforce release skills for quoting. So it's quoting with, I think that, I have thoughts on everything, but on that as well.
My biggest thing is I think it's cool. I think for creating a provisional quote, just a quick sketch of a quote. Yeah, throw one of these on there, give it a quantity of this, whatever. I think one of the problems we're going to have, let's say, for example, I've maxed out, as we saw, my 200 attributes for this bundle, and I need to configure all of these 200 attributes. Am I going to really type that to Agentforce? Am I going to remember 200 attributes? Because in the absence of seeing it on the screen and clicking and deciding what each of these values is going to be, I would have to tell the agent, hey, for this thing, make this the value. For this thing, make this the value. And at a certain point, there's just a time cost of, you know what, screw it. I would rather just click through this and get it done than to try to remember, oh yeah, which attribute? Okay. And then the agent keeps asking me more questions. Well, what about this what about this nested bundle inside of the bigger thing? And what do you want those values to be? And there's a a place for every tool, including generative AI and Agentforce. However, I think unless it's something very high level and a quick sketch, it's probably more work than it's worth. And sometimes, especially curmudgeonly users like me, like a honorary boomer, they just want to just let me click the thing. Thoughts
Well,
there?
I think I first of all, I think you're exactly right. Like I've been debating like how much detail does that prompt need to have in order to generate a quote that's worthy of looking at or that's worthy of analyzing. Where I do think it can help though is on the user adoption side, because no matter what company I've worked at that has CPQ, the complaint or the pattern that I see is a sales rep always waits until the last possible minute to
Yes.
create the quote. Always at the end, they say, oh, it's too hard, it's too cumbersome, I don't like doing it. Whereas we could have an SDR, as they're transitioning, something over to a sales rep say, hey, they're interested in these two products at approximately these volumes and have better visibility into forecasting potentially,
Sure.
which I think certainly has its advantages.
Yeah.
That's really where I see that application coming in more so than anything else.
You could probably say, hey, agent, convert this lead to an account contact and an opportunity and add a quote, a budgetary quote for 10 computers to it. And
Hmm.
then the agent could do all of those things in the background while it'll transfer ownership, perhaps even to the new person based on their territory or whatever. Micah, you're
Hmm.
going to say something?
Yeah, so I think, early adoption of AI agents, particularly in the revenue cloud space, is really largely going to be in service of making your sales reps more complacent or lazier. That's just how it's going to start. And
Yep.
that's okay. I think customers are going to find that they're paying, they're paying extra for that, when it really a lot of it could be flow. Making a chat-based automation is fun. It's interesting. It gets people in there using it, but it doesn't really add a ton of value. I think, though, there are some really interesting use cases. And Jean-Michel, you had on your LinkedIn recently the milestone billing. I think it's a really great one.
Yeah,
That's an area
yeah,
that, like, it's not easy to code out or to automate, but with, and a lot of times, you're capturing those details in text or in negotiated commercial terms somewhere. That's a great use case to go create those milestones. Also, I think in terms of amendments, upgrades, downgrades, those types of situations, we've already got a lot of that attribution filled out, and maybe you're reacting to consumption events, or you're reacting to a customer logging in and responding to an invoice or something. There's some really good use cases there where a support agent or an internal user can go, all right, this customer's mad about their bill that's way higher than they thought. What can we do about that? Oh, okay, well, maybe it makes more sense for them to upgrade. Okay, go kick off that upgrade and book it, or go kick off that upgrade and show me what the price will be so I can send it to them. That kind of stuff where it's not heavy on the config side. It's more it's accelerating the customer experience turnaround time by virtue of, hey, go give me some information that would take me longer to go dig up and evaluate myself than it is just, hey, here's some dumb automation, go do it because I'm asking you to through via chat. So I think there's some interesting stuff there where there's real value. And then longer range, that's where things like go do, kicking off agents to go do some more research on what are other customers, or what are we positioning to other customers that have won? What are the right kind of packaging or price points that have won in the past? And then go create a quote for this new customer based on that as a starting point. I think there's some cool use cases there as
Like a
well.
white space analysis type
Yeah,
application. That could be really
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, it's white space, green space, all that stuff as well. I mean, if you think about the quote to cash process overall, it's one of the biggest and most complete, if it's done well. It's one of the biggest and most complete data sets that we have for any business. I mean, going all the way to the GL and the quote lines and the orders and the order products. There's so much stuff. And as all of these objects are enriched often automatically with data points that we're capturing either systematically or through user inputs. it's such a rich and useful data set. It's probably one of the best places to start with Agentforce. So despite my curmudgeonly ways, if I was going to start implementing AI, I think this is a good place to do it. We even saw the starts of it with CPQ back in the day with the pricing guidance, which I don't know how much that actually took off the ground, but it's the same kind of idea. Like, what is the smallest discount I can get away with and still have a 90% chance of closing this deal? That's a really valuable insight. And you could drive a lot of margin and revenue over time using those sorts of approaches. Jason?
And Mike, I think you nailed it. From a billing and a quote to cash perspective too, I see this kind of building on the analytics of, customers live and breathe. It's not just a one and done, you have a contract and you're done, right? You have customers now, upgrading, downgrading through the product. They don't need a salesperson. You have more complex customer hierarchies where, the person paying the bill is not the individual users, but users can move up and down and buy different products within their certain set, right? So when you come to renewal, right, and I think this is where you were going with that too, Micah, right? You can now use that agent piece to analyze that data and see, really, is this customer in the right package? Is there an upsell opportunity, cross-sell opportunity? Can we cannibalize some of our products, right? Like take the old Xerox method, which is really common, right? Hey, look, customer, you're paying too much for a product you don't really use across numerous child accounts. That would take a salesperson. Oh, a salesperson wouldn't do that. Like, who are we kidding, right? Like you would look at the original contract, you'd look at where this customer's going, what they're currently paying, and you look for discounts, right? This enables a more flexible, in-depth, more intelligent from a CRM, from a support base, from a sales perspective, upgrades, renewals. And I think it really helps enable a salesperson with more complex customers, right? Because customers are getting far more complex in, offering usage. But then, you have large companies that say, yes, I need 5 separate contracts to manage 45 child accounts, right? Because they're in different geographies, different pricing. You get all this complexity. Come renewal time, there's got to be a way to make it easier on the people paying the bill, easier to understand what they're buying. And then that in turn makes that invoice a lot more palatable.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jason. Where product launches, when they go for new packaging kind of thing, when you kind of retire some old ones and new ones, and as you go along, you package it in different ways, bundle it different ways. That's where your existing contracts and all those subscriptions you have it, and all those various terming periods. That's where kind of the complexity comes in. What kind of discount based on what you have, what you're going to get it, and all those combinations, and some of those licenses also come into play of how much you have and how much we want to kind of. That's where it's a very get complex and a lot of problems when you implement that. That's where you kind of but again, whether the AI can do that and kind of how much it can, but definitely with the guide, some rules and all those, you can leverage that. Yeah.
In addition to the Agentforce stuff and to keep things moving along with the release notes, we got a lot of we've got amendment limit increases, we've got change orders, start and end dates for subscription assets, the uplift on renewals, as you said. The smart approvals too, I think, is another part that's pretty exciting for a lot of us who come from the old school where we had the advanced approvals package. Now smart approvals are part of flows, and you could use the flow orchestrators to build out approval processes, which I'm currently wrestling with. I spent too much time in the CPQ cave, I tell people, and I've built only a handful of flows so far, but flows are the future, and now that's where our smart approvals and advanced approvals live. Has anybody done a lot of work with that yet?
Yeah, I've been looking into it.
I
haven't built anything hands-on yet. Sorry, Jam.
No, go ahead. All good. I talk too much. Just cut in.
Well, you're the one with all the demo videos having built the stuff, though. So
I mean, it's it's always like we're the old men yelling at clouds. Obviously, when we're forced to move from advanced approvals, which we liked, into that new flow orchestration, which I think didn't work perfectly, but now it's getting there, as with everything, right? It's moving. I think the great thing is it's all moving very quickly. I think the exciting thing generally about Revenue Cloud is we've all been spending years implementing CPQ and a kind of fixed state, right? So you're quoting a project and then you're implementing it, and you're going to deliver the project in the same platform that you've sold it on. Now, all of a sudden, I'm quoting a project but then one release passes, the second release passes, maybe until I have to go live. Advanced Configurator being a good example. I've got a project that's coming up on go live, and now we're kind of rethinking a lot of what we've built custom, because we're like, maybe we can do it all with Advanced Configurator. So we've built a bunch of custom stuff that's going to be impossible to maintain, and now, it's optimal for the customer to just, scrap it all basically.
I'm working with a client right now where we're implementing Revenue Cloud, and there were some limits with the configurator and what the screen looked like and all this other stuff. And so we ended up going down the path of a custom UI. And well, do we really need a custom UI? Because now we have the advanced configurator on the horizon, and that's going to have some more capabilities. And I suspect that the advanced configurator, which we might as well get to, I don't think we'll have a chance to get to
you skipped over Apex
and all that. But
you skipped over Apex hooks and pricing procedures.
Oh, yes.
We need to talk about this one because that's a big one. We've been waiting for that one. Micah's nodding in agreement. Yes. That was needed because all this stuff about attributes, if we don't have Apex hooks, is quote unquote worthless because we can't really use attributes and pricing. Now we're going to be able to, because we're going to be able to use those Apex hooks and pass them into variables for our pricing procedures.
For the non-developers in the room, I'll just call myself out here. For the non-developers in the room, what the hell is an Apex hook? What does it mean, and how am I going to use it in my pricing procedures?
We have limited information, but the information we have right now is that we're going to be able to write an Apex class that you're going to be able to call before or after, or maybe both, your pricing procedure by creating a procedure plan. And that Apex will have access to all your context, so sales transaction, transaction line, and transaction line attributes.
Okay, so before or after I'm getting all of these attributes populated, I'm able to call Apex and use it as part of my pricing procedure. Did I understand that right?
Exactly. So say you've got a bunch of different attributes, or say those attributes need to be pulled in and logic needs to happen among them. And then that should feed into, say, some attribute-based pricing or some lookup table type pricing to figure out what tier am I in? Like take a financial services type customer, for example. Maybe you've got fee schedules that are based on a number of variables like assets under management and trading volume. And then there's some math that needs to happen, as there often is in fins, to figure out which tier of fee schedule am I in. Well, you can get your attributes today on your product, but there's not really a good way to do any take those, apply any logic, and then map them into your pricing procedure to then go figure out which tier of fee schedule would I be in. So this would allow you to code out some Apex, map those into your context definition so you can use in your pricing procedure. Or on the other side of it, do some additional logic based on, say, custom field values that you retrieved as a part of your pricing procedure and wrote back. Maybe there's some additional logic you need to kick off from there. Today, you have to write all of that on quote line, which is not super helpful when it comes to actually referencing that within your pricing procedure, and can cause recursion and things like that. So this is something there was an element initially, and then it
disappeared.
Well, don't use that element. And then it was like, you can request it. And now it's not available at all. So I'm glad to see this in summer 25. I was worried that we were going to have a much longer dark period without it.
There's another
I haven't played around with it at all yet, so we'll see.
From what I remember, there's another member of our group that kind of needed this to exist because the project's success hinged on the thing. So I'm glad to see that this is part of it as well. Would you say this, how closely does this equate to, say, quote calculator plugin pulling from the old world?
Well,
it's not.
It doesn't really do one-to-one because the quote calculator plugin would operate on all your calculation sequence. Now it's before or after, right? Okay. So
it's a combination of the price rules, lookup tables, lookup object driven, where you go the term discounts, you go to there and you get it, and also QCP. Combination of things are all gelling into this pricing procedure, kind of where it feeds in and all that. So
I think it still would be nice to have a RCA version of a QCP where you can just say, just go do this logic now and drop it into the middle of your pricing procedure. But I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, maybe one day. Maybe one day. Dynamic revenue orchestrator. Fulfillment plans from any object.
Yeah, so apparently we're not. I mean, initially it was only on order. Then I think they did order and quotes, and now apparently we're going to be able to do it on any objects. Which honestly, I like DRO. I feel like it's the most net new that we're getting in this whole Revenue Cloud thing, right? Revenue Cloud replaces a lot of things that already existed. I'll say CLM also is pretty much net new that didn't really exist before. But DRO is really something that wasn't there before that customers don't really have an equivalent for, as far as I know, and enables a lot of cool use cases, I think, for a lot of customers, right? Because if you're selling SaaS, then you need to enable license, you need to assign your project manager, you need to assign your resource, you need to plan your kickoff. Now, all of this, and that's probably happening in a mix of Excel sheets, emails, Slack, all over the place. Now you've got just this DRO plan that orchestrates all of it and triggers flows and does call out to external systems to enable, to activate licenses. I mean, I haven't used it a lot yet besides demoing, but I feel like it creates some great potential.
Jason.
Yep. Yeah, this is exciting because it's been a gap forever, and a lot of other systems struggle with this, right? Doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's a revenue recognition event triggered, right? Once a customer has obtained that product, whether it's SaaS. Where you see a little bit more complexity here, ironically, is around more manufacturing or technical businesses. I believe it used to be called like pick, pack, ship, or you have a truck roll, right? So how do you recognize revenue for, say, software or a hardware? Then you've got a service delivery. How do you do those all individually, create those events? And I think DRO is headed in that direction. But then consolidating those all on the back end into a single invoice and getting those back on a recurring schedule. I think that's always been a challenge for Salesforce billing. So seeing DRO, it's a good step forward.
A nuance to call out here, from any object, but you do list some standard objects, quotes, incidents, cases, service requests, and custom objects. So this is quite literally any object. So if I have, for example, a custom project object that needs to be created when a certain thing happens, I could include that in my DRO fulfillment plan.
Well, you can already do that because you can invoke flows at a specific step, but your fulfillment plan right now can only be created itself. The plan itself can only be created from quotes and order. What this says is that now you're going to be able to create it from other objects. So if for some reason you wanted to create a fulfillment plan from your project, right? So you want to track all your project steps in a fulfillment plan, right? In that layout, this needs to happen first, then this, then this. Then you could do it from your custom object project. We'll see when we can actually test it out, but that's what the release.
Yeah, I think this is a real game changer for a lot of organizations that have had to kind of hack their way into automated provisioning and fulfillment off of just the order and order item. I mean, there are so many implementations I've been a part of where either that part was just like, we'll get to that someday, but it's not in scope for this first release, or it's like, hey, we have 250 checkboxes on the order item, and those do all kinds of stuff. And we're not like, we can unwind it, but just check the checkboxes still as a result of this implementation, and everything will be fine. And so to me, like, this opens just DRO in general, but this custom object capability as well is really helpful in terms of flexibility for a lot of those organizations that have a really nasty transition from order to provisioning or fulfillment with whatever they've cooked up. This kind of gives them a good intermediary step, or they can just continue leveraging at least the object model that they've got, and then hopefully do away with some checkboxes as well.
One of the things I find most valuable about DRO as well is the idea of exploding the bomb, the bill of materials, because I'm in the process. My battery on my Mac is on its final legs, and I need to get a new MacBook. But when I place that order for the MacBook on the Apple website, that's the high level thing of what I'm going to do. But when that gets sent downstream, there's a whole bunch of pieces, parts, and components that need to be ordered and sourced and all this other stuff to assemble said MacBook. It needs to find its way into some sort of on a conveyor belt somewhere and all of that. And saying that, okay, yeah, this one MacBook, this is what's in the box, but I'm going to blow that out into a bunch of discrete lines that say, here's the processor, here's the RAM, all this other stuff going back to your pick, pack, ship, JSON. Although I'm sure a lot of that's done with a robot anyway, but that's a key function we haven't had in the CPQ side. And then you always wrestle with, well, what are we actually selling here? And you have customers who think they need a manufacturing bill of materials on a quote. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. But at some point, those few lines do need to be exploded into the full every screw nut washer that needs to be a part of this assembly. Billing. That's the last item here.
Yeah.
It'll probably give us enough
I
to
think
talk
we
about
can
for the
skip.
last little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we can probably skip most of it. I think the only note that we should bring up for Jason is collections, because that, we only add an extra package to install and manage package billing for collections for Dunning. And now it's going to come out on platform collections. But because you need to send emails for collections, and there are platform limits for sending out daily emails on the Salesforce platform, if you want to be able to send out collections email with the on-platform collections feature, you do need Marketing Cloud Grow license.
Of course.
Yeah, this is one of those that sounds good on paper, right?
Yeah.
But in practice, how does it affect the licensing? You nailed that, right? So how much is this going to cost?
It's the buy more software solution.
But then too, which system in your ecosystem are you taking payments? Right? Are you taking payments in Salesforce? Are you taking it in your ERP? Are you processing it at a third party? How are you running that payment information in? Is it header or line level? And that's all going to drive a lot of complexity in the collections configuration. So Dunning is Dunning. That's messaging, right? But capturing those accurate balances is a whole other, dance. But again, I see this as a step forward, right? It's moving things, I think, one step at a time to get them on platform. Because again, in Salesforce, that's where the numbers will be in theory.
And arguably, that's an area where you can come up with at least a quantitative ROI with, potentially improving DSO by X number of days. Okay, worth that additional marketing spend. So in theory, it's great. And in theory, you can come up with some calculus that makes those extra licenses worth it. But in practice, there's going to be a lot to stand up, I think, and get it running.
Yeah, I don't know how expensive that license is, and I mean, frankly, it's more
or the license model.
Anything else that you'll have to, you'll be selling Revenue Cloud and Revenue Cloud billing, and you'll have to say, oh, you also need to buy Marketing Cloud. That discussion with the customer seems like a fun one.
I'm having a discussion with a customer right now and Salesforce about, hey, so what do we do for our third-party partners who need to log in and do, deal reg and everything? And then now the conversation is turned towards, well, now you need Commerce Cloud. And that's our official recommendation, is to use Revenue Cloud and Commerce Cloud. And I'm just thinking, time out, hold on. You're telling me now I have to maintain two different products that may or may not have parity with their data structures, with their rules engines, with their process automations? Are you kidding me?
This is one I think we can all comfortably, direct customers to contact your local friendly AE or RVP, who can then consult the internal Agentforce
This
agent.
is Mike saving me from
how much
putting
does
my
this
foot in my
cost?
mouth.
No. See, what you do is you send an email to CEO@salesforce.com, and then you make sure that he knows everything that you love about this model.
I can only imagine what that inbox has seen over the years. Can you imagine? Wow. I think
really just one last note on this one. I think in all seriousness, a lot of the competitors to Salesforce billing are looking at, oh, the rug just got pulled out because of this big transformation, new product, new steps, right? Change is hard. But I think this issue of multiple licenses to facilitate different pieces of the quote to cash is a compelling story that Salesforce really needs to get in order. They need to make it very clean. They need to make it very clear. And I know for a number of weeks, again, the thread that you brought up earlier, John, all of us, being in the system for as long as the majority of us have, it was still we were still questioning it. Right. What is Revenue Cloud billing? What is revenue? Like, where are these bits, pieces, and functions? If we're asking that question, you're drowning your customer.
Oh, my
and
God.
So yeah. I think that's an area that if Salesforce gets ahead of before the competitors do, because right now they're focused again on that rug, being pulled out. It'll benefit the AEs, it'll benefit Salesforce, and ultimately it'll help customers just get it. Understand, okay, I'm going to need 4 different types of Salesforce products here to get end to end.
Right. Yeah. In the conversation today, it's okay. Revenue Cloud is like per user per month, but there's also a usage component. Commerce Cloud is usage based. And then, well, what about when I want to send these things out with the marketing? How is that structured? What's this really going to cost? Sure, there's the value assessment that we're going to do, but yeah, talk to your AE for pricing. Last but not least, I figure we would we'll kill the other migration conversation. That's this whole hour on its own. Probably way more than an hour, but
we need to have drinks for that one, I think.
That's a good idea. I like this idea. There's a reason you're here. He's done.
I'm in.
I want to get
8 p.m. round table on a Friday with a drink.
We'll do it. Fuck it. We'll do it live. Advanced Configurator. I was not at the training. Yes. I'm not cool enough to get invited, but JM and
Micah and I were
both
invited to the great reunion, the great Revenue Cloud reunion,
which was fantastic. I like seeing those photos, a bunch of smiling faces, and the food. You guys were just going to town on the food out in San Francisco. I will go to that steakhouse with you the next time we're out there together, Micah. So what did you see? Advanced Configurator. What are your initial impressions? Where do you see it going? What does it really solve for us?
I've arguably not used, a dozen CPQ tools in my life, but I feel this is way better than whatever we've used for configuration rules before in CPQ and what we add in currently in Revenue Cloud.
Okay.
That's initial impressions. So I can let Micah jump in also. But
agreed. And I think probably the main reason for that is it's not a rules engine. And I'd even seen, from internal Salesforce, a few different rules engines in development that were really sharp. One of them was using Drool scripting, which is a much more efficient tree-based model to go through decisions and evaluate rules. This is a constraint engine with a solver. So you're basically providing a statement of the Tesla Model Y is red. And it's not if-then statements. So it's much faster, but it also is a different model in that it's actually providing the solution or a solution for you as a result of the engine running, which is just a completely different model than what we've seen with every other CPQ tool I've worked with. So it's really cool and it's innovative in that sense. But it's going to be an interesting paradigm shift for administrators and consultants.
What are the biggest things for administrators and consultants and even developers? How must our thinking change to approach the new way of working with this configurator?
Right now, it's purely code-based, right? So this is all the coding languages, CML, constraint modeling language. The rules are all built in there, but really it's coming out GA in summer. And summer will also bring some point-and-click abilities to how you build those rules. I'd say the easiest to illustrate difference is, in CPQ, if this is selected, then you need this to be selected. But then if this other one is deselected, the other way around, right? Every time you write a rule, you have to write it the other way around as well. Now you only write one and it handles it both ways. That's, I think, the easiest to illustrate. Like if your constraint is saying, if CPU is i7, then memory needs to be 64 gigabytes, right? This rule works both ways as a one-liner. You don't need to write 2 product actions within your product rule to get it working both ways.
Oh, okay. That is a lot more efficient. You're going to cut your number of rules that you would have to build.
It's far less to manage. It's a different way of thinking about, you're really thinking about the behavior you want to enforce and the potential options. And then the solver solves it for you. There are similar capabilities with providing alerts or information messages or warning messages or hard validations, things like that are very similar. The user experience, I think, is on par with what you would expect. To me, again, the running theme is it's really hard for administrators and developers who aren't, familiar with constraint model language, CML, which most aren't. So the promised release of a more admin-friendly UX, we didn't really see much of that. I think they kind of showed a little bit at the end. But what that looks like, I think, will be really important for putting this in play in real life. Until then, it's working through CML, basically coding, and then interactions and tying with products, which I think it's ripe for problems in the wild, and that when you're defining your different variables essentially that you're working with, you're relating them to products and to actual data in the org. And so maintaining those relationships between what your CML is defining and what products it's actually referring to is an ongoing maintenance effort. And so right now you deactivate it and then you reactivate it, and basically you're refreshing those relationships. But in real life, that's going to be highly problematic for ongoing management and administration. And so there supposedly are some enhancements coming in summer 25 that we haven't really seen around that. I think that's going to be really important for this to actually not just be, somewhat of an administration bomb dropped into many orgs.
I did create a custom GPT that outputs CML if anyone is interested in getting that.
I'm sure people are.
Just built it on all the documentation and the examples we had so far.
Look at this guy.
I was going to write everything from scratch all the time.
Man, I still haven't used ChatGPT, but that's because I'm a curmudgeon, and it's on principle because I'm too proud for my own good. Does this then mean that we all need to, for those of us who are going to choose to stay in this space and not move to another product or something like that, do I need to learn to code now? Has the decision been made for me? Because it seems like with Logic, I got to know how to code. With Revenue Cloud, I need to learn how to code. With a lot of these things, I need to learn how to code. Is that just the reality now? And what are the key languages that I would need to focus on?
I think for the advanced rules, you're ultimately going to need to be able to code, right? I think you're going to be able to do the simple ones and point and click, but I think the fun stuff, right? The projects that we're going to get, the people here, you'll have to be able to code or have someone by your side that can actually code the CML to be able to do the complex ones.
I would agree. I'd say it's not a big leap though from like advanced formula writing. I mean, it's not complex code really in any stretch. It's really advanced formula work, and then tying that down with or tying those formula elements to real product records. So
looks like I need to go on a sabbatical for 6 months and go into the cave and learn how to do all this shit. We're up on our time. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time today. Hopefully you're able to join on one of the next ones. For those who are watching, please, do the whole like, subscribe, hit the bell, whatever that shit is that people keep saying on YouTube. I almost said Instagram. And we'll be back next month with another hour-long discussion. Next month, let's talk migration, CPQ to Revenue Cloud Advanced, and all the considerations that we need to keep in mind. We'll try to keep it to an hour because there's way more than an hour's worth of consideration there. And with that, everybody have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Thanks for organizing, John.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.